50%. I have an alarm that will go off on our batteries when they get down to 12.2 volts. And the alarm didn't go off. So I knew that we didn't like totally destroy our batteries. But anyway, it was 8 o'clock in the morning. You could start up your generators. So we went to start it, and there wasn't enough battery to crank the generator start motor. So we have an emergency start switch on our dashboard, and I went over and held that switch, so that connects the chassis battery up front by the engine to the house batteries or the coach batteries in the back, and the generator started right up. So we ran it to get the batteries back up. The sun was out all day, so we got back after our hikes to a rig with 100% batteries. So that was nice. What we did was during the day we went over to a 4-mile. We did a 4-mile hike to Rapidan Camp. It's Rapidan Camp. Old stone buildings. This was a recommendation from the visitor center. And so this camp was developed to be the quote-unquote Camp David by President Hoover. Now, we hiked in 2 miles. We got to the camp, and it was beautiful location, but not on the level of presidents staying there. It kind of looked more like a national park, camp. So anyway, we hiked 2 miles back to the car, then we drove a little bit, about 20 minutes or so, and we did a 3-mile hike up Hawks Bill Mountain, which is the highest peak in the Shenandoah National Park, and it's just over 4,000 feet elevation. We then went back to the rig. We talked to a couple who was set up next to us for a while. Very nice. And took out the grill and had a really nice meal. So we didn't take out the grill the day before because this is a national park and they do have bears, and they recommend no food items, or they demand no food items outside your enclosed area. So if you're in a tent, they have bear boxes for the food. And in the RV, you're in a bear-proof environment. That's what RV manufacturers say. So we left the grill tucked away. So took it out, had dinner, and then put it back. So that night, it was going to be colder. It was going to be down near freezing, they predicted. 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius. So, we were nervous. We're very conservative. We have all LED lights. So, in our living room, we have 6 lights, and on one switch, and when you turn them on, we draw like a half an amp. So we knew we weren't going to be doing a lot of drawing. However, we didn't turn those lights on. What we did was we swapped out some lights in the living room. So we turned those on. I'll see if I can remember to put a link in to the improvements or the customizations that we did to this rig when we got it. And that'll show those lights. So anyway, we used those lights. We used the heat very conservatively. And another restless night, worried about the batteries. Again, we got down to 12.2 volts, but so the alarm never went off. We didn't destroy the batteries, but again, why were they so low? And in fact, when we got up, I turned on the lights, and they weren't as bright as usual with the furnace running. So again, we got the generator started, charged up the batteries, and Trish remembered last fall we were heading out to Cape Cod at the end of the summer, actually. So it was like late August, and we hit a hurricane when we were going into Rhode Island, and we backtracked to avoid the hurricane, and we stayed at a Boondocker Welcome location, or a Harvest Host location rather, on Route 84 in Connecticut. And it poured and the wind was blowing, and that was before I fixed the leak that we were experiencing by the exhaust fan over the stove. There's an exit on the side of the RV where the exhaust blows out, and when Thor installed that, they left a good half-inch gap that you could not see without removing the cover for the vent. Once I took it out, I saw the gap. I could see where the water was coming in, and I fixed it. However, this was before I fixed it. So we had a lot of water coming in the rig. We used a lot of towels to mop up that water. And at that time, I don't know why we did it. You know, we're old and our memories aren't working as well. But for some reason at that time, instead of starting the generator or the furnace and spreading out towels, we probably thought the space heaters would be more efficient at drying out towels than the furnace. And it's probably true. The space heaters are a dry heat, and if you've ever camped in cold weather with a furnace going with the propane, you get a lot of condensation. So, what we should have done at that time in Connecticut was start up the generator, ran the 2 space heaters, and been done with it. However, we relied too much on our batteries, and we've learned an expensive lesson. When we were doing that, we were running them off of the inverter. I installed a 4,000 watt pure sine wave inverter, which would easily handle both heaters on full. However, I didn't have the alarm set on our batteries, and we killed those batteries, unbeknownst to us. Or we didn't realize how bad we hurt them. So, here we are in the Shenandoahs 6 months later, and our batteries are not lasting the night with just a furnace running. So, lesson learned. We went on Amazon. We were planning on meeting Kathy, who I used to work with years back in New York State at the old Letchworth Village, Hudson Valley DDSO it's called now. So I contacted her and asked her if we could have the batteries delivered to her house, and she said, absolutely, no problem. I said, all right, just make sure you have somebody to load them into your car because they weigh a good, 60 pounds each. She said, yep, no problem. So I went on Amazon, found the batteries, and they couldn't get them to her in time. So we pulled out our calendar. Our next stop was going to be in a campground. So we contacted the campground. Can we have these batteries delivered? Yeah, no problem. Have them delivered to this address, and you'll be good. So we ordered 3 100 amp AGM batteries I will rip them out at the campground, reinstall the new ones at the campground, and from now on, we've promised ourselves that we're going to be very careful with these batteries. I'm going to change the alarm to probably like 12.3 volts. Give us a little bit of safety room. We're only going to use the batteries for battery-operated stuff, except if we're going to run the coffee pot, we can plug that to the inverter. It's a very short, high-power draw, and it's in the morning, so the solar will re-top our batteries. But, like doing the microwave, we used to run that off the inverter. And I guess if it's like broad daylight and the battery's 100%, and we're going to have time to recharge those batteries, we could do it. For a 30-second heating up, a cup of tea or something. But otherwise, it's going to be the generator for any space heater. Microwave, probably 90% of the time will be run off of our generator. We've learned our lesson, folks. So another problem we experienced on this trip was our second stop in Winchester, Virginia. And it's the policy of Boondockers not to advertise like the actual location and host names and stuff like that. But guys, if you're listening, we had a really good time with you. We look forward to seeing you again. So while we're there, unbeknownst to us, when we leveled, I put the jacks down on top of our 30 amp wire cable that we plug into shore power with, and I crushed it. Now, in my younger day, I would have said, well, I'll just cut open the casing on the wire and check the integrity of the wires, and if they're fine, then they're fine. Now, knowing that, when we're running the air conditioning, you're running 30 amps and heat and all of that, we're not going to take any chances. So we ordered a new power cord, 30 amp, 50 foot, to replace our old 50 footer. So that's sitting here in Wirtz, Virginia at the post office. So this afternoon we're going to swing by after I'm done recording and Trish is done with laundry. We're going to shoot over and pick up that power cord at the post office and we'll be set. So, camping is so much fun, folks. This is stress management, right? The stresses of RVing. If you've never experienced the stress of while RVing, let me know. I would love to hear how you do it. RelaxRV at hotmail.com. So, we got our batteries all charged up with the generator in the morning. We stopped by, we dumped again, and we then headed down to where we are now in Wirtz, Virginia. So we're at a Boondocker Welcome location. We had stayed here, we're thinking about 3 years ago. I'd have to pull out calendars, and I'm not going to bother. Host is a really nice guy. So we're here, 15 amp. We're not taking any chances. Like I said earlier, we're not running our heat strip. We don't want to pop this circuit breaker. So Trish is out doing laundry. We found a winery nearby. So when she comes back and I'm done recording this, we'll get this out to you guys and to your ears. Thanks for listening. We're going to hit a winery and put away laundry.